Today, I want to spend some time talking about two things that I realize that people don't pay very close attention to. Two things that are under celebrated in today's fast paced world and pressure filled world. It's the beginning of the year right now as I record this, and there are a lot of people making New Year's resolutions. And a lot of people are not will never factor in these two things I'm going to talk about. They're going to take them for granted. And these two things have massive impact on us as human beings and how effective we end up being in whatever we do. And so I think it's very important to listen to this, especially at the beginning of the year. And as I usually say, you can be listening to this podcast and you're at the end of the year. That's fine. You understand? I don't think we need to constrain this beginning of the year to January and stuff like that. But then it might be for you the beginning of this knowledge. And then you start a new year going in with this knowledge. So you might be listening to this in June or October. But whenever you listen to this, let that herald for you the beginning of a new year, a new phase in your life, new understanding, a new approach to things. So I'm going to talk about two things. I was having a discussion with someone yesterday and we talked about this, and I thought it would be very important to put this in my podcast. So today I'm going to be talking about sleep and food. Sleeping and eating. Sleep and food. And I want to emphasize sleep, not just to rest, but sleep. The act of sleep and the act of eating. I don't think too many people pay attention to how vital these two things are, how important they are, and how much attention we should pay to them. But I hope by the end of this podcast, someone will have more understanding about the need to sleep and the need to eat well, to be conscious about eating. You see, I truly believe that there are two ways of knowing things that are important or knowing where we should turn our attention to. Two ways. Number one way is by God's inspiration, God's leading. God can open your eyes to see what you should focus on in terms of what is important. God opens your eyes and directs you. There's a divine direction to what you should take as important in your life. Who is important? Where is important? God's leading, God's direction, God's inspiration. The second way to spot what's important and where to turn our attention is by observing the devil's activities. This is also very important. To observe the activities of the devil. Now, there is one virtue that the devil has. One virtue. Just one. And that's the virtue of the devil never wastes his time. The devil will never waste his time. Never waste his time. Because the one thing that the devil doesn't have is time. So the devil never wastes his time. And what does this mean? What this means is when the devil attacks something, it should signal to you that there's something important there. When the devil attacks an area, you should know that that should be an area of attention. It conceals something that is important. The devil never attacks anything that is of no importance. Everything the devil attacks should tell you that is important there. Attack signals attention. Attack signals attention. Is a symptom that there should be attention to something. And that's why, you see, when you look around, and even when you look at the Bible, if you look at the story of Moses, when Moses was going to be born, Moses was meant to be a deliverer of the Israelites, great deliverer. But then at his birth, a lot of young children were being killed and being thrown into the lake. It was a time of massive genocide. It was a terrible time. It was a dark time. But it was also a signal that something important was happening. The same thing happened with the birth of Jesus. When Jesus was born, a lot of young infant children were killed. Mass genocide. There was a lot of crying, a lot of wailing. But that attack was a signal for attention that something important was going on. When you watch the activities of the devil, watch what he attacks, and then you will know what's important. When things are going rosy, it shows that the devil is not paying attention to it. If the devil is not attacking, it means that you shouldn't pay so much attention to that. So I'm talking to someone here today. Some of you, your marriage is under attack. For some reason, it just seems like constant butting of heads, constant argument, constant. Very likely that there is something important there that the devil doesn't want to happen. He knows that the two of you, there's something both of you can do that is massive together. He's going to try to attack it. Some of you have children. One particular child giving you cause for headache. You're like, I don't know why I struggle so much with this child. It's just so much of a struggle with me and this child. The relationship is so strained and you don't know why. It's telling you there's something important in that child. Something very important. Pray about that child. Pray about that child. Pray that God will give you the staying power not to give up on that child. Because that's what the devil wants to do. He cannot actually thwart good, but he can make you give up on the process and on your journey towards good. When you look at nations that are being under attack, one such nation is the nation of Israel. Always at war. One war or the other. One terrorist attack or the other. Always engaged in a feud. Easy signal that there's something important about them. There's something important about them. Attack signals attention. If you're here listening and you know there's a part of your body constantly under attack, your eyes, your legs, your arms, something constantly under attack, always has one irritation, always has one ache, pray to God about it and say, God, grant me victory here. Grant me victory. You see, for me, I realized this because I usually have attacks on a lot of times my respiratory system. I have coughs, sore throats, sinus issues, things that attack my wanting to engage with people and talk with them and speak and record the podcast. And this started up from when I was a teenager. My skin was attacked, you understand? So I had blemishes and pimples and things like that. And I didn't want to go out and meet with people. And that is my gift, having conversations, meaningful conversations. So the devil tried to keep me indoors. I remember when I started doing this podcast, got really active into it. That was in 2022. And beginning of the year, we had just celebrated the new year. And on the, I think about the 3rd or the 4th of January, I got chicken pox. I'd never had chicken pox in my life. My daughter had it and I got it. And I had chicken pox in adulthood. And it left me with some scars. And this was me, 2022, trying to get into speaking, making videos, being invited to speak to communities on Zoom, on Google Meet and stuff like that, on Instagram Lives. And I was scarred. And I remember telling myself, I'm not going to go out this year. I won't go out. I won't go for any speaking engagements. I won't just go out and meet people because I can't go out with these scars. I still have one that is still healing on my nose, but I was so insecure about it. But then I realized this is an attack. This is an attack. It tells me that I should go out. There's something important out there for me, and the devil doesn't want me to go. So you see, if something's under attack right now, I want you not to give up on it, but to lean into it. Something's telling you, don't go out, go out. Something's telling you, fight with your husband or fight with your wife. Wake up that morning and embrace them. Something's telling you, this child is a rebellious child. Be angry with them. Wake up that morning and say lovely stuff to them. Your leg is aching you, doesn't want you to go out. Go for a walk. Go for a walk. You have a cough, you want to record something, go ahead and record it with that cough. Because I want to let you know what the devil wants you to do is to give up. And once he sees you are not giving up, he would retract that strategy. So I think that's the first thing I want to make known. But then I'll go back to the subject matter of today. What the devil attacks is a signal. And you'd realize that the devil usually attacks sleep and eating. And how do I know this? I realized that a lot of times when we have negative emotions like worry or anger, one thing that is affected is our ability to sleep and our ability to eat. A lot of times when we are very worried, we don't sleep and we don't eat. When you are very angry, you don't sleep and you don't eat. This happens to me. And I'm sure it happens to a lot of people that way. When I'm angry and upset, I don't eat. And it's hard for me to sleep. When I'm worried, I cannot sleep. And eating becomes a burden. So we must understand that it's not the anger or the worry. It's what it gets us not to do or to do. It gets us not to sleep and it gets us not to eat. That is what the devil is after. And that made me realize that if these things, if it affects my sleeping and my eating, then there's something important about my sleeping and my eating that the devil doesn't want me to have. Then it made me investigate these two things, sleeping and eating, and why we must take it very seriously this year. Very seriously. We take these things for granted. It's not just to eat, it's not just to sleep, and you have a lot of toxic messages out there telling you not to eat properly, and that's why you see there are a lot of movements. I don't even call them diets. A lot of movements advocating for a particular type of eating that doesn't keep you very strong, telling you to cut out some things that God is telling us to eat. Do you understand? There are a lot of things that are attacking eating. A lot of sweet sounding messages attacking eating. A lot of sweet sounding messages attacking sleeping. Telling you sleep is for the weak. That billionaires don't sleep. That while you sleep, you are missing out. These are strategies I truly believe that come from the devil, because there's a lot of treasure in these two things. So as you make resolutions this year to network some more, to be more diligent, to be more consistent, to build relationships, to pray more, to study the Word of God more, please don't forget to sleep and to eat. I know it can be a very hard message, especially in Nigeria, where we are in January and there are a lot of churches that are going to declare days of fasting. And that's good. But when you are done with the fasting, don't get into the habit of fasting perpetually. Eat and sleep. And I will start with eating. Eating is so important. A lot of us don't understand that eating has a spiritual side to it. Eating is so important. It's so important to God. It is so important to God. So important to God. You see, when you read the Bible, you realize that after God has destroyed the earth, he told man that man was now free to eat animal. That means before then, man was not free to eat animal. But God said man is now free to eat animal. It was like a celebration of a breakthrough, of a new phase, a new level of intimacy with God. God said, I will never destroy the earth again. Let the rainbow be a sign. And you know what? Let's have a more intimate relationship. So I'm going to allow you to eat. Why did he just not leave it at the rainbow? Why was there something that had to change in the eating? Because eating is spiritual. Eating is a spiritual act. It's a very spiritual act. When you read the Bible, there's a lot in the Bible that talks about eating. A lot. There's a lot of things that talk about eating. There's a particular part of the Bible that was of interest to me. Has always been of interest to me. Is the story of Isaac and his twin sons, Esau and Jacob. And they said Isaac had a preference for Esau, who was the first son. And he wanted to bless him as a father would bless their first son in Jewish tradition. But you see, what was interesting was what Isaac told Esau before he blessed him. He said, take your bow and go into the wild and get me wild game and cook something delicious for me. He said, it says, cook something delicious. Don't just cook something that I like. And he said, when I eat it, then I will bless you. A lot of us don't understand that the act of eating propels a blessing. That act of eating, something delicious, something you like, something that makes you happy. People don't understand that the act of eating, it's a spiritual thing. The scientists will say that it makes us produce endorphins. That's the scientific way of saying it. Spiritually, it excites your spirit. It excites your spirit. It brings your spirit alive. It actually does. And you can see Isaac here said, when I finish, then it will propel this blessing. Meaning, to a very large extent, Isaac did not even know what he was going to say. But he knew that the food will inspire it. Once the food goes in, the blessings will come out. Some of you need to start eating better. To start thinking better. To start declaring better. To start doing better. You need to start once a week giving yourself a treat. A food you like. Something that's delicious. Eat it. Eat. Once a week, treat yourself. Treat yourself. You don't have to splurge. It can be a little bit of that thing. But let that thing in you bring out joy that allows you to bless your own life and bless people around you. Eating is so important. Very important. The devil is attacking it. Eat. There are families today that are torn apart, but they don't understand that their healing is not in a therapist's office, it's in one activity. Begin to eat together. Begin to eat together at the same time, on the same table. If you can eat from the same plate, oh, so much more better. So much better. I can tell you that. Eating joins you together. Very important. Eat together. Your family seems disjointed. One mission you should give yourself this year is trying to convince them to eat together at the same time. This is dinner time. Let everybody eat on the table. You do not even need to converse. Just the act of eating brings about fellowship like no other act can. Eating together, it's a spiritual act. You don't understand this. It's a spiritual act. It's not a physical act. There's more spirituality in it than physicality. That's why when you look at the underworld, you see, I used to watch a lot of, now there's a lot of Western content out there, and a lot of it is just, for lack of a better word, chewing gum, just entertaining chewing gum. When I was younger, we used to watch a lot of Nigerian content. Even though in terms of cinematography, they were weaker, in terms of content and context to reality, they were much better. So then we used to watch movies, a lot of what we call Nollywood movies then. And then you see someone joining the occult, someone joining a coven of witches. And what's the first thing they tell them to do? They tell them to eat. All of them eat from a calabash. All of them eat. There's always eating. There's always eating in initiation into joining a family. There is always eating. Eating is spiritual. Don't let anybody deceive you. Eating is a spiritual gift more than it is a physical gift. As you go into this year, eat. Choose to eat well. Eat well. Don't overeat, but eat well. Eat food that you like. Food that makes you happy. Let the Spirit lead you. God will lead you. You see, during the life of Jesus, there was one miracle, one type of miracle that he did the most at scale, overwhelmingly more than other types of miracle, and that was feeding. At scale, when you look at miracles that Jesus did, feeding was the most at scale. So there was never a time in the Bible where they told you he healed up to 1,000 people at once, or brought to life up to 1,000 dead at once, or healed up to 1,000 lepers at once. No, there was never a time. All those things were done in small units, 1, 2, 3. I think the most was 10. But when it comes to feeding, Jesus did this at scale. He did the healing at massive scale. I mean, the feeding at massive scale. So he healed 5,000. He fed 5,000. And another time he fed 4,000. He was in the business of feeding at scale. So I'll put it this way. If you took a census of people's experience of Jesus's miracle when he was alive, more people had more miracle experience of him feeding them than him healing them or him casting out a demon or other things. There were more people that would say he fed me, because feeding is important. Jesus, for one, knew how important it was. Some of you need to eat more. He understood that if he didn't feed them, the word will not enter their ears. He was always concerned about them eating. He was always concerned about them eating. He was. One thing Jesus also did a lot was he always met with people over food. So there was a lot of Jesus was invited to come and eat. And when he was eating, he spoke. And when he was eating, he spoke. It was so bad, in quotes, that Jesus had in mind that people looked at him like a glutton. And so maybe that was the rumor that was going about, that this man just goes about eating with people. He loves food too much. That's how much he went around eating with people. That it was almost his nickname, Jesus the glutton. That's what he says. He says people look at John like a madman, and they look at me like a glutton. He knew how important it was to sit down and eat with people. He knew it was a very important spiritual atmosphere. Some of you, in your business, you need to go out more and meet with your clients over a cup of coffee, over a snack, over food. Some of you need to do that more. Stop meeting in your offices. You understand? Meet over eating. Resolve things over food. You have a disagreement with someone, call them over. Get some popcorn. You guys eat together. You will realize that you will say less before things are resolved. You will say less before things are approved. You will say less before minds are inclined to you. Eating is very, very, very important. And that's why you see, when there's discouragement, eating is also very good. It's very good. I can't tell you how many times I've been discouraged about something and my wife just convinces me to eat. Just come and eat something. Just eat. And I would grudgingly go and eat. And before you know it, solution comes. I remember there's a story in the Bible. Peter, after Jesus had died, had become discouraged and went back to his fishing work. And Jesus called him back. Jesus appeared to him and called him back and said, check it out. I got food here for you. Eat. Jesus was so much about eating. I was like, you're getting disillusioned. Eat. Let it clear your mind again. The same thing with a prophet called Elijah in the Bible. There was a time when he was so disillusioned and so discouraged and just feeling like his assignment wasn't going well and was bringing more opposition than it was bringing progress. And so he got into this mood, this very pouty mood. And he said he's tired of the work. And God had to separate him. And God, he fell into sleep. And I'm going to come to sleep after this. He said he slept off and he said he was awoken by an angel. And what did the angel present? Food. There was no word, only food. Food and water. And then he said he ate it and he slept again. And the angel woke him up again and said, there's food ready. Hot bread and water. You see, God wanted to rejig his mind. Prepare his mind for the spiritual. So he needed to eat. Someone needs to eat better this year. Be more intentional. All these people that take pride in, I don't have time to eat. I'm too busy. I eat once a day. Sometimes I've forgotten that I've not even eaten. No. Eating is a spiritual activity. Somebody's relationship with their husband will change by you just deciding, you know what? I would wait for you to come home from work and then we will eat together. I want us to start eating together. Forget, there's a place for therapists. That's good, but within the home, give yourself this therapy of eating together. Some of you need to eat more with your kids. Yes, you are busy at work, but eat with your kids. If you have this kind of work that allows you to come back home and eat with your spouse, come back home and eat with your spouse. Eat with your kids. Eating is so important. Allow your spouse to cook for you, men. Allow your spouse to cook for you. A lot of you have gotten into these affairs. Have cheated on your wife because your wife is not cooking for you. You're always in a rush to go out and just say, I will grab something on my way, grabbing things here and there. Then you grab something you shouldn't grab. Allow your wife to cook for you. Oh, it's such a spiritual thing. I remember there was a time I was working away from home. So I used to go to the office and my wife would cook for me and put it in a cooler because I used to leave the house early in the morning, drop the kids off at school and then go about my work. And sometimes me and my wife will have a disagreement. We'll have a disagreement, strong argument, you understand? And then it's time for me to eat at work and I open that cooler and I see what she has made for me. And my heart just melts. I see how she has arranged the food and I'm like, I can't fight with this woman. I can't fight with this woman. This woman took her time early in the morning to make this food. And as I eat the food, I begin to pray for her from my heart. And you know what? Immediately, I pick my phone up at work and I call her. How are you doing? I'm sorry about this thing that happened. Sorry I had to raise my voice. Sorry I had to do this. Or I can tell her, I didn't like what you said. And we talk about it. Food is very important. I think we should prioritize it more this year. Enough said about food. I want to talk about sleep. Sleep also very important. Oh, sleep is such a gift. It's such a gift. I think the devil even attacks sleep more than he does food. Because he knows how spiritual sleep is. Oh, sleep. Sleep is so important. Sleep is an important ingredient in God working. And you can see this in the Bible. You see, when God looked at Adam and realized that his situation wasn't the most ideal, he needed a partner, God put him into a deep sleep because God needed to do important work for Adam. You don't understand that when you sleep, God cracks his fingers and says, now let us get to real work. Because we must understand that there is the conscious man, which is your body, and the subconscious man, which is your soul. Your soul never sleeps, your body does. Your soul is more spiritual. It connects to God easily more than your body would. Your body is very excitable, it's like a child, very infantile. Your soul is a wise being with information. When you sleep, the infant goes to bed and the adult, which is your soul, relates with God. The soul never sleeps. You see, I've learned this. A lot of us will wake up in the morning. I wake up in the morning, then I go and say my prayers. You don't understand that the real prayer was said while you were sleeping, not while you're awake. While you're awake, the prayers you make are the thoughtful, a lot of times the selfish, self-centered prayers, the religious, repetitive prayers. You don't understand that while you were sleeping, God was interacting uninterruptedly with your soul. How many of you have ever slept and you woke up in the morning with a song in your mind? A song. You were not singing that song the day before or before you slept, but then you just woke up with this song. Because that was the song your spirit, the soul and the spirit of God were singing while you were asleep. There is more activity going on in the spiritual while you are asleep than you can ever imagine. You see, sometimes I wake up in the morning and it's the thought. A lot of things I write. For those that follow me on X or Twitter or whatever I call it, I write a lot of things. A lot of people say, how do you think about them? I say, I don't think about them. They just come to me first thing in the morning. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them. And I realize It is the spillover of an interaction that my soul must have been having before my childish body, my excitable body woke up. And because it's so excitable, it's not paying attention to things. So sometimes the embers of things that it grabs. And then your soul has to reveal to your body over the course of the day some interaction, some answers. That's why sometimes you go through the day and you're inspired to do something you weren't inspired to do yesterday. You are passionate about something you've never been passionate about before, because that is your soul giving you some of the information that it got overnight and just releasing it to the infantile body in small doses. So you realize that you went to bed and you didn't know how to solve something, and you woke up and immediately it seemed like if you just know the answer, how to do it. Your soul relating with God and just say, okay, the child is asleep now, there's no noise, let us talk. Sleep is so important. You wake up and your mind tells you about somebody. Call this person, visit somebody. And why did I think about this person today? Then start thinking, did I see their picture? Did I watch their video? Did I see? No, you didn't see anything. It was the interaction while you were sleeping. And they talked about that person. And God's Spirit said, okay, by the way, tell Mr. Body and Mr. Mind there that they need to call this person. But tell them when they can, when they are paying attention. So tell them in the shower. Tell them while they are driving. The soul has so much information. And it gets that information, a lot of it, while you are sleeping. So those who don't sleep never get clarity. Because a lot of clarity comes in the time of sleep, which is a great time of intimacy between your soul and the Spirit of God. Sleep. So important. Sleep. It's important to sleep. Somebody needs to be more aware about the need to sleep. The need to sleep. And that's why when I tell you about the story of Adam, who was in sleep, that Eve was created. The same thing with Elijah, was in sleep. He had to sleep. Then an angel woke him up. His mind was set from that. So that time of sleep. These two things are very paramount. We need to take them seriously. Begin to cut out those things that don't allow you sleep. And that's why you see that a lot of technology, a lot of startup companies, entertainment companies, they are 24/7. Netflix attacks your sleep. Yes, there might be some good content on Netflix. I want my fair share of Netflix, but I remember there was a time it was stopping me from sleeping early and having a good night's sleep. Your phone, just keep looking at it. And now I say, whatever the devil attacks, pay attention to it. The problem is not the phone. The phone is just a tool to get to what the devil really wants, which is your sleep. He knows that if you do not sleep early, you sleep in a way whereby you don't even know what's going on. You are totally out of it. You understand? You go into this kind of slumber that when you even wake up, you don't even know what century you are in. So there are no embers of anything coming to you. You are too tired. The other way in which you can sleep that the devil attacks is making you have a job or a commitment that makes you wake up way too early. So you now set alarms. Alarms are one of the most dangerous things because it jolts you into consciousness. So you get no embers of those conversations. People that wake to alarms never have waking thoughts. Always, I need to go and take my bath, go and brush my teeth. Get into the day. But you see, When I stopped living my life in a way whereby I'm waking up to alarms, I started waking up naturally. And you can only wake up naturally if you sleep early. If you have sufficient sleep, then you begin to wake up slowly. But if you don't have sufficient sleep, you will jolt yourself to waking up. So if you sleep late, the problem is you sleep in. And when you sleep in, you wake up alarm because you feel like if you slept too much. So we set alarms, and alarms jolt us into consciousness. And then we miss out on the spiritual embers of those conversations because you need to rush to work. Some of you need to stop those jobs that allow you to wake up too early and put you in a position where you have to sleep late because you close late. Some of you need to relocate from those very busy cities where you just need to be up and out by 3 a.m. You're on the road. By 11 p.m. You're still on the road going back home. Just a few hours. Some of you need to go to quieter cities, and you realize how much your life would change, how much clarity would come into your life. You need to sleep. Figure out those things that are disturbing your sleep and begin to deal with them. Some of you need to leave some WhatsApp groups that are not allowing you to sleep well. Some of you need to unfollow some people that are just putting up skits and things like that you end up lying on the bed watching. Some of you need to learn to watch fewer series where you're like, okay, I'll just watch episode 1. Then you watch episode 1 and 2. And before you realize you spent your night hours watching 5 episodes of a particular series. It has stolen your sleep. I want to ask us to be more intentional about these 2 things this year. Your sleep and your eating. And just watch how your life would begin to unfold for good. How your intimacy with God would improve. My name is Tola T.A. Alabi, and this is the TA Podcast.